The story of the two girls roasting breadfruit is all-encompassing. It's a story of how the landscape came to be that we would recognize as the lava delta that the Ke'oholi Airport is situated on. It's the story of the flow of lava from its source in the uplands of Hu'ehue to form that lava delta below. So the story goes, there was a time when the fishing fleet was out in the waters off of Kekaha. Kekaha is that part of North Kona, from Pu'uanahulu in the north through to Honokahaiki in the south. It's a dry land. There are kaha lands known from all of the islands. Perhaps most popularly, we recognize Kekaha from the island of Kauai. But Oahu had its kaha lands, Maui the same, and Hawaii Island as well. They're the leeward dry lands. Further, our homeland is sometimes called Kekaha Wai'ole. Kekaha, that place, Vai, water, ole, without. So in the kaha lands, this dry place, we hear that then as now, it has been protein rich. The offshore fisheries were rich in the time of our ancestors, and they remain rich today. So, at a time when the fishing fleet was off of shore, the sails of the fleet caught the attention of a woman who had traveled from the interior of the island to the seashore to ask for some food from the fleet. It's said that when she got there, she was told that none of the food from the fleet would be available for anybody except upon the instruction of the chief. At that time, there was a large fish pond named Pa'aiea. According to tradition, it was 3 miles long and 1 mile wide in the vicinity of the Ke'oholi Airport today. It's said that when she was refused any of the catch of the fleet, she then asked if some of the morsels of food, the shrimp perhaps, from the fish pond would be available to her, and she was told no. She then asked for some of the palu, the chum that was used by the offshore fleet. That was denied her as well, she being told that all of these elements belonged to the chief and could only be given at his approval. It's said that she was speaking with a man named Kapa'alani. It's said that Kapa'alani rebuffed her. It's further said that she then turned and left the seashore and began walking back to the interior of the island. She's described as being an elderly woman wearing a lei of ko'oko'olau and leaning on a coffee wood cane. Now, I was telling this story once, and one of the astute listeners said, well, Hannah, coffee had not yet been introduced to Hawaii. Well, the coffee that we drink hadn't yet been introduced to Hawaii, but in the native flora, there are several varieties of coffee that were already here, such as alahe'e, which was used as a kako'o, or a cane in times of old. So leaning on her coffee wood cane, she went back towards the interior of the island, meandering up Hualalai, and it's said that a man named Kapulau called to her and invited her to come into his home to eat some of the dried fish and pa'i'ai, the dried poi, that he had. It's said that they ate, and when they completed the meal, that she told him to put lepa, or flags, at the corners of his home, because unusual activity would occur in the time to come. Now, in this time of the story, men and gods walked together, lived together, mated together, were together in the world. We're told that at that time, if a stranger came into your midst and gave you instructions, best you would follow them, because you never know when you're entertaining the Kinilau'akua, the multiplicity of gods. She continued on her way. She then came to the breadfruit grove of Kamehameha in the uplands of Hu'ehu'e. Kamehameha is a figure in the Hawaiian genealogies who is associated with and sometimes synonymous with Haumea. Haumea is a female patron of productivity, of growth. Haumea is associated with a variety of complementary and related akua. In some accounts, it's said that she came to Hawaii with her brother, Kane, and that they arrived at Ke'e, just makai of where we are here at Amy Greenwell Ethnobotanic Garden. Haumea is also, in some traditions, the mother of Pele. In this story, she's associated with this breadfruit grove in the uplands of Hu'ehu'e. Now, Hu'ehu'e is situated about 10 miles above Kailua on the Mamalahoa Highway, going towards Waimea. Hu'ehu'e sits on the crest of the northwest rift of Hualalai. Hu'ehu'e Ranch headquarters is situated on the hill Akahipu'u, just below the hill Moanuiahea, and above the hills Puhiapele and Pili. We can see by this description that it's situated on the Northwest Rift. At the time of this story, though, Puhiapele did not yet exist. There in the uplands of Hu'ehu'e was this breadfruit grove of Kamehameha. It's important to us to consider, in this time, the pond of Pa'aiea, that one described as 3 miles long and 1 mile wide, as well as the fisheries off of shore, were important components in the traditional economy of the region. The breadfruit grove similarly. We can imagine even today the richness of the Kona field system going from Kailua heading this way to Kealakekua and even a little bit beyond. It's easy for us to imagine all of the productivity of the Kona field system. As you go up north, the further north you go, the more difficult it is to imagine. Rainfall diminishes, soil's horizon become more shallow. The industry of the gardeners up north is clear to see even today. The agricultural yield in those northlands, in the Kaha lands, was the productivity of ingenuity, hard work, working with elements that, like water and soil, we are more blessed with here in South Kona. So the breadfruit grove of Kamehameha was a significant cultural, economic, social, religious feature on the landscape. The woman comes near to this breadfruit grove of Kamehameha, where there was a village called Manuahi. At the village of Manuahi, the people of the village were out and about. Now, I'm imagining perhaps they were working the breadfruit grove, perhaps they were tending things that needed to be tended at that time, but there were 2 girls who had remained behind, and they were cooking ulu in the pulehu style. Now today, when we talk about we're going to go pulehu, we use it synonymously with barbecue. But to pulehu is to cook in the ashes and the embers. So they were cooking the ulu in this pulehu style, placing the whole fruit into the embers. According to the story, the fruit had just been placed into the embers when the woman came upon Kolomu'o and Pahinahina. It's said that the woman asked them, "For whom are you preparing your breadfruit? I'm hungry. It's time. Can we eat?" And the girl said, Kolomu'o was preparing the breadfruit for La'i, the patron of her family. Pahinahina was preparing the ulu for Pele, the patron of her family. It's said that the woman told the girls, "This breadfruit is ready, it's time for us to eat." Again, keeping in mind that we receive instructions from strangers, not with a grain of salt, but with a willingness to follow. The breadfruit was checked, it was indeed done. The three partook of the food. The woman, as she prepared to continue on her way, leaves the same instructions with pahinahina that she did for kapulau. Place lepa, flags, at the corners of your home because unusual activity is going to happen on the mountain tonight. She continued on her way. Instructions were followed, and in that night it's said that the people of Kona looked to the mountain, and on the right side of Hualalai, as they looked to it, they saw a glow. And they interpreted it as the fire of the ua'u hunters. Ua'u is a bird which nests on the land and fishes at sea, the petrel. A little bit later in the night, they see fire again on the left side of the mountain as they look to it, and they thought that to be perhaps the woodsmen and their fires. Still later in the night, and we could imagine where the story goes, the rumblings and the explosive eruption of Hualalai there at Puhiapele, consuming the breadfruit of Kamehameha, and a flow continuing on and consuming the fish pond at Pa'aiea. The woman, of course, being Pele, and the story being instructive to us about the sharing of our bounty with strangers and the denial of hospitality to strangers. Now, there are a lot of names and a lot of concepts in there that touch upon the richness of Hawaiian culture. We see that the ulu does not occur by itself. The story tells us about the fishing that's occurring off of shore, the fish pond that is found there, as well as discussion of Pele and Haumea.